How's it, South Africans and people of the world? Welcome back to another episode of Jacksonville Trades, the podcast where we speak about politics and pop culture, skills, and people stories. Because every jolt is a goat in the making.
Please stop sending me that Amahle-Jags video. I urge you, please stop sending it to me.
So the inspiration for this episode is essentially a conversation that I had with my friend, right? We get on the phone and we speak for about 40 minutes. And all we're speaking about is how, as this generation, a millennial, we have grown up with all forms of communication, right? Starting from sending letters to a fax, to learning email, computers, and all that vibes, to Tumblr. I'm getting ahead of myself. MySpace, Facebook, Tumblr, Vine, and so on and so forth. And so this episode, I wanted to speak about how you make social media fun again. Now, I just want to make it clear that as an influencer slash content creator slash whatnot, I'm not coming for brands when I say make social media fun again. Who I'm actually speaking about is the tech companies who have made this thing that was essentially, a way for us to communicate with our friends so capitalistic and now extremely focused on brands, right? And that's kind of the conversation that we're going to be speaking about today is how do we make social media fun again? And the reason I've dubbed it this episode, or rather titled it like this, is because last year in 2024, I made the decision to make my social media fun again. I was having a conversation with some friends and we were speaking about how posting has become so, people don't want to be perceived anymore. They're finding it so difficult to post on their Instagrams and all this other stuff. And I was just like, what is the issue? Because me, you guys know me if you follow on Instagram, I don't care a damn. Right? I will be posting everything from, when I used to drink, how hungover I am, to when I'm back in my Xhoseni with my family and ngumgidi, to, I've never felt the need to filter myself on social media. Obviously, there are things that you guys don't know, but I've never understood the pressure of social media. But the more I had conversations with people, the more it was kind of like, social media is no longer a place that is social. It's more of a place where people are selling you stuff. And that was a little bit disheartening for me, because number one, I'm an influencer. So I'm the seller, you're the buyer. And number two, I guess because I use my free will so often, and I keep saying, guys, let your intrusive thoughts win and you'll have fun on social media again. So essentially that's what we're talking about today. I'm talking about how this thing that was once a joy and, a reason for community has almost turned into a marketplace, right? Even Facebook, and I haven't been on there in years. I couldn't even tell you what my password for Facebook is. But shout out to Instagram for posting there for me so my high school friends can see that I'm still alive. Also, every time I log onto Facebook, people are getting married, okay? People are having children. All right. It's stressful, man, and it's busy. And I was watching this BBC YouTube last night. And this guy's basically answering why are our friends, and it's titled, Why Are Our Friends Not Posting on Social Media Anymore? And he basically explained it to me in this way of just it has become this marketplace, it's a place where you're either selling something to someone, you don't necessarily have to be attached to a brand, but it's become the new yellow pages, but instead of finding people's phone numbers, we're finding people's businesses, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because we evolve all the time. It's a good place for you to find videographers. Rapson is nodding. For you to find a makeup artist, a hairstylist, all these other things, for you to have access to trends and all that other stuff. So it's this duplicit world where it's really, really good, but it's also making people really, really tired. And so, that's the question. How do we make social media fun again, right? Because social media started from these and I remember back in my day, I can say that now, I'm over 30. Back in my day, guys, Instagram was hilarious. You're posting a sandwich that you ate that day, you're posting weird, blurry pictures of your friends' shoes. There was none of this pressure of just everything has to be aesthetically pleasing and whatnot and so on and so forth. And for me personally, I don't care. If you go onto my feed, you'll find everything from me selling Johnny Walker. Actually, no, I don't do that anymore. Me selling Dove by the Dove. And to me pictures of me, like just that I've taken off of my phone. And like, when did we move into this world where everything had to be so professionally shot? You know, she says, sitting in front of professional videographers. So yeah, it's, you know, social media isn't just social anymore. It's become extremely strategic. And as business.com put it earlier this year, brands can't afford to just exist online. They must entertain. And so much so that we have become the brands. Jote, come on. You know, and in chasing like this aesthetic and this perfect life on social media, we've kind of squeezed out the spontaneity of it all, which is why it was created in the first place. And now, you know, when you're scrolling, I mean, you have everything from ads, like my ads though, from ads to like weird AI to all these things that are just making it not lacquer. And you never actually see your friends' posts. Like, I only see my friends posting if they post it on their story, because that's where I'm camped out on. So the question also then is, how did we get here, and what would it take to make social media fun again? So like I said, you know, I'm a millennial. Let's take it back a little bit. I'm a millennial who has gone through all of it, right? Millennials are the guinea pigs for everything. I don't think there's a generation that has gone through just different things as much as we have. So I mean, I remember when I first made my Facebook profile. I was never a MySpace girl. That was like a Joburg thing. Like, that was very much for you guys in the metropolitan who were ahead. There in the Eastern Cape, for me personally, it was Mixit. And then it was, Facebook. That was the next thing. And I remember sitting on like our family computer, because these were rare, right? Sitting on my family computer and like logging in and then like finding friends and like being so honest as well, like about what was happening in our lives, right? It was so crazy back then. You would put the status of who you're dating and what your status of the relationship is. Like, it's complicated in a relationship, single, like that. If I think about doing that now, I literally cringe at the thought, you know. And then the turning point, I think it was for social media, was when Facebook introduced ads in 2007. Twitter introduced promoted tweets in 2010, and that kind of marked the first shift where this thing went from social to becoming market, right? So this 898 marketing article I was reading said, social media has evolved from a place to connect with friends into a marketplace where attention is the most valuable currency. And when that attention is the most valuable currency, you have people doing weird things just for the bag. And I would like for you guys to stop that. Be your real selves, you know? That's what, you know, I think that's what made social media so fun and interesting, was access to people in their reality, you know what I mean? And now we're kind of fighting, you know, the algorithm, you know, and social media kind of has stopped being like a playground, and, you know, the algorithm is like our landlord. I just want to read you something quick here. Harvard professor Shoshana Zuboff calls it surveillance capitalism. This is what this whole thing is called, right? The idea that platforms are no longer just connecting us, they're harvesting every click, like and pause to sell back to advertisers. In plain English, if you're not paying, you're the product, and brands are paying billions for access to your attention. Think about it. Facebook didn't just introduce ads, they built entire data economies around us. Your likes become behavioral signals, your search history became a marketing profile, your joy, the memes, the selfies, the random 2 a.m. thoughts got packaged into audience segments and auctioned off to the highest bidder. Now, for me, this is obviously putting me in a compromised place, because I, as I've said, am one of these people who look to you and say, what did that lady say? You're still skipping my ads? You can skip my ads. It's okay. I'll get there one day. You know, so like, I also sometimes feel so not bad, you know, because like I said, it's a business, it's a marketplace. But I do feel so bad that, like, you know, all people engage with sometimes on my page is brand work. And I think that's why I work so hard work hard. Hold on. I'm saving PDFs and stories, not lives. That's why I kind of like to give you a little bit of my personality in it so that you get some relief from feeling like all Jax does is Salas Dove, all Jax does back in the day, Salas Johnny Walker and all that other stuff. And, it's kind of become this ecosystem now where brands, the social media and the tech company themselves and people like us have turned this beautiful thing into, was it beautiful? Because I got bullied on Facebook once upon a time. But this thing that was meant to connect into, very transactional, I think that is. And I think that's why, just to go for the segue here, I was having a conversation with a mate of mine, and she's a massive influencer, and she was just speaking about how hard it is to translate onto TikTok. And I think the reason people translate onto TikTok is because people on TikTok are their authentic self. That way of doing things, that aesthetic, that like everything must be picture perfect, it does not work on TikTok. People want to see you with your hair all funny style. They want to see you in your gown like me. They want to figure out the real you, because I think there is generally a fatigue with the aesthetic lifestyle. And then just to rope in the economy, because I am that girl, I also think, in the way that we're living now, with the cost of living crisis, opulent life is not intriguing anymore, because I think people are realizing more and more how far away from that dream they are. You know what I mean? Like, I remember when we were younger, my friend used to always say, like, we're not all going to drive Ferraris, right? And that used to be such a crazy concept. Like, of course I'm going to get a Ferrari. Not me, though. Like, I'm more of a Porsche girl, Cayenne, all black rims, all black interior with just the red. Do you see what's on my vision board? But yeah, like, and that used to be such a foreign concept to me, that like, what do you mean we're not all going to drive Ferraris? That's like given. That's what's been sold to me. And now me and that Polo are going to 15 years. I promise you. Hey, me and that Polo, I'm about to hit 100K kilometers. We're going. So yeah, I think that's also another thing why TikTok becomes so accessible, or rather it becomes more enjoyable, because you are seeing people in all facets of their life, from different classes, from different races, and so on and so forth. And they're all kind of like engaging you, and you get to see different perspectives. But another conversation that was happening on TikTok recently from this one guy who had maybe like a 90-part crash out was that the middle class is missing. So on TikTok, what you're finding now is that people want you to be so relatable that they don't want to see your middle class life. They don't want to see you doing regular things. You either have to be super, super rich or dirt poor. And I remember this one person saying, the reason people feel like that is because it's not because they're praising you for being authentic. It's almost as if they're looking down on you, and it makes them feel better about themselves, that like, hey, at least I'm not that guy who has to, if it's 10K likes, if I don't remember what the Zulu term was. But essentially he was saying like, Begi Vaskompa, 10K likes immediately. And then as you go through the trends, the sound, and you're seeing how people are posting with this thing, he might tell you a joke, but he didn't tell a lie. You know what I mean? So there's almost, social media has become so capitalistic and so inauthentic. I'm just sometimes perplexed as to like, how did we get here? I know how we got here, but like, why is it so, and why can't we just go back to the way things were? And is this thing even, reversible? So yeah, some evidence and examples that I found as to why the reason, or why this is, or why advertisers and brands, like I said, to the brands that work with me and love me, I'm not shading you. This is what you have to do. But, it feels like we're no longer marketing. It feels like we're just attaching, how do I say this so I don't get canceled? We're just attaching things that are meant to be marketed with strategy behind them to just the people who have the biggest amount of followers. And I'll give you an example, like something that I've struggled with since my blow up is brands not understanding why I don't want to do brand work on TikTok. Like for me, I've built an audience, And that audience on TikTok looks to me for current affairs. We are talking about politics, you know what I mean? Like they want me to break down economics, or they want me to speak about, you know, General Mkwanazi, or what's happening with Donald Trump. You know, that's the exchange that we've gotten between me and this audience, right? And I feel like it would be such a betrayal to, you know, to start saying, hey, please buy these scissors. You know what I mean? Because then people are going to be like, but what does this have to do with the economy? But if I turn around, and this is to all my brand managers watching, and I say, the cost of these scissors is 7 Rand, and they have employed 40 people, then I think that becomes more relatable. So to bring it back to my mate, and she was just saying like how difficult it is to translate, it's because there also has to almost be like a unique selling point now. You know, you have to have something that makes you different, that makes you, to obviously to transcend, that makes you different, you know, that makes you kind of likable as well. And in a way, be yourself, but not be yourself. I know it's very contradictory and all over the place, but as I'm sitting here, I'm just trying to figure out what the issue is. You know, Vogue Business had said like the influencer economy is projected to hit 500 billion, with micro influencers now commanding more credibility than celebrity campaigns, which now also brings us into the art of things, right? You know, I was watching another interview with one of these South African actors, and she was saying, it's so sad now that they've gone through their craft and they've gone to school, and you know, she wakes up at night because she's thinking about how to say her lines, and now someone who's gone to school for this thing has to have a big following in order to get a job, to be an actor or an actress. Do you know what I mean? And that's so sad to me, that it's gotten to this place where people who really have a love for their craft, a purity for their craft, have to also amass this following to be taken seriously. And that's why we have those scenes in Generation. And I know you guys I know you guys know what scene I'm talking about. What did she say? Coco. And she runs and she's going to finish something, and you're just like, I never. This is not the generations that I grew up on. Impossible. So social media has become, you know, at one point, you know, this really, really beneficial thing for our businesses to be marketed. I mean, I can't pay for this bar. I can't pay my bills if I don't have social media, if I'm not getting campaigns. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't do this podcast without that facilitating, because YouTube, for example, is not paying me enough. And on that note, please like, share, subscribe, and put a reminder, okay, for when my content comes on. Thank you. But yeah, like it's such a difficult conversation for me to have, because I'm one part in the space itself, but at the same time, I can recognize how it's become extremely toxic. It's become very much a numbers game. We've almost lost the social, not almost, we have lost the social element of it. You know what I mean? And so how do we make social media fun again? What do we do? Me personally, you do what you want on social media. If TikTok is anything to go by, you do what you want. And I don't think there is or maybe I'm speaking from privilege, but I don't think there's a recipe to this formula. You know what I mean? I think people naturally gravitate towards things that they care about, and things that are interesting to them. I will watch like someone clean the entire house because I like cleaning. Do you know what I mean? Like, I will watch that other one where people are, where they're cleaning the shoes of the horse. I don't know what that, there's something about a horse getting a new shoe. Oh my God, sign me up, right? And so this social media world is this beautiful, beautiful place where we get exposed to all these different cultures, and, you know, we get exposed to different ways of doing things, but at the same time, it's so monetized that people are willing to risk their lives just to appear cool on social media. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain trends, you know, when people were putting like that, it was Americans, obviously, when they were putting those washing powder pods in their mouths and stuff. Then there was also the trend with the Kylie Jenner lips. And then I'm just sitting there like, why aren't we just dancing, bruh? Just dance, you know what I mean? Like, just have a good time on the app. But yeah, it's platforms have really, really become structured around advertising and brand building and not necessarily for user fun. But I think if there's one platform that's gotten it right for now, it is TikTok. And that's why Instagram is suffering. But we're also going to need to come to the party. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're also going to need to start posting again and start thinking about, like, is this aesthetically pleasing? Am I posting like my Louis bag versus like my Galaxy Boy t-shirt? I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I've been really trying to wear South African brands. And also, every single flower on this season has been a South African flower. If you didn't know I was patriotic, now you know. But yeah, so yeah, I don't have much to say more on this topic because there's actually something more to say and I don't have a fun segment. I have made the decision that this is my last episode. I didn't tell them. For the season. Don't worry, Rapson, you're going to see me soon. The reason for this is I'm overwhelmed. Okay. I am currently I have to write my research paper. I'm in school. I content create and influence. And I recently got a really, really big project that you guys will see about soon that I think requires my attention. But I do have this. Hold on. I was speaking to Dan Corder yesterday. We were doing something together, just in case the timelines don't match. We were doing something together and we were just speaking about how burnt out we are. And I kept thinking about like, oh, I'm really burnt out. Like I'm at my wit's end. And when I was coming home, I was watching this YouTube, and this guy was basically saying how we are obsessing over productivity, and I'm one of those people who was obsessing over productivity. And so he was speaking, and he said the 3 principles of life are doing fewer things at once, working at a natural pace, and obsessing over quality. So I think I need to do that. I felt like the second half of the season has been very rushed on my part because, yeah, I just don't have enough time. And so I'm going to be back in October. Rapson, it's going to be okay. He's still going to get you retained, don't worry. I'm going to be back at the end of October because I need to find some form of balance. My schoolwork is taking a little bit of a hit. I haven't been posting as much on TikTok. And like I said, I've created a community that kind of depends on me to create for them, for their understanding. I really do appreciate the platform that I've been given, the social media platform. And I just think that once school is out the way for me, I can then dedicate, so much more time to the podcast and come up with even better ideas for it, work hard on my TikTok and do my brand collaborations really well. So yeah, that's what's happening. And we're back to 30-minute episodes. Do you see? I'm busy, dog. And not in a good way. Like I'm not like, oh my God, I'm so busy. Do you remember when millennials used to glamorize working? Like while you sleep, we grind. How toxic. We were so toxic. It was like so cool on social media, by the way, to be like at the office and it's like 2 a.m. Crazy. I'm all about that work-life balance. You won't catch me. You guys watch my episode on therapy, ne? If you haven't watched it, everything's gonna make sense. The 3 episodes that interlink. It's the first one, why I left my own company. It's the therapy episode, and this episode are kind of like one 3-part kind of series. So yeah, I really want to give it my all. I haven't had time to even interview guests. Also, it's a nice round number for someone who's OCD like me. This is episode 10, and that makes sense. And also, I need to really do that brand work so I can pay for Black Native to be here and shoot this thing. Because some of you think I edit this by myself. In what world? In what world am I finding memes and No. Those of you who've been around on my Instagram know that I am a woman in tech, but I'm not software. I'm like the guys I can fix your Wi-Fi. I'm that kind of woman in tech. Like I can fix your Wi-Fi. There's nothing I can't set up, but put me on like on the actual internet. Not forget about me. So yeah, that is my final episode for the season. I will be back around October. And towards the end of October, beginning of November. I've already started thinking about it because obviously I work hard. We're going to go straight into the G20 because that's what's been happening. That's going to be happening in November. We're going to speak about, that's actually the only one I have. I almost lied to you guys, damn. So yeah, guys, it's been a wonderful season. There's nothing we haven't spoken about. Yeah, Rapson, you don't have anything today?
Well, I didn't know about that, so it threw me off. My question. Okay, cool. Let me go through the question. The question is: you spoke about surveillance capitalism,
Yeah.
right? Now, what I want to know is that: do you think it's fair for people to get fired for things that they posted like 10 years ago? Because there's so many people. Yes, there is the current situation that is happening.
Yeah.
But people like your Kevin Hart had to apologize for jokes that they made 10, 20 years ago. So is that fair or?
I think it depends on the joke or the things that you said.
Okay.
You know, there was a time I think I was fat phobic. You know, I like, oh, how can you be fat? I've been skinny my whole life. Look at that privilege. Do you know what I mean? And I remember the first time I was enlightened on how wrong that is, right? I mean, I often speak about how I was bullied, but that in a sense was me bullying. So I literally went through my entire Twitter and I searched my name and the words that were problematic, and I deleted all of that. The reality is that people, before social media, people could say what they want in the comfort of their own homes or in the comfort of their own friends. Then when we got social media and it was still just your pool of friends and nobody really had access to what you were saying, you were saying things that were inflammatory or discriminatory, but you and your friends got it, right? And we didn't really have the education. So we didn't have the education on the LGBTQIA plus community. We didn't have education on fat phobia and so on and so forth back then, because it was still normalized to be cruel to people, right? And now we've kind of become more educated on social media. And that's also one of the great things about social media. You know, they kind of educated us on things that we wouldn't have been educated on, you know. It's not cool to always just be like wearing your gay friend like a purse and think that, you know, you're part of the LGBTQIA plus communities. Are you walking at Pride? Are you voicing out your opinions when America is trying to reverse the same-sex marriage bill? You know what I mean? So those are the kinds of things. But in the same breath, we can never excuse the use of the K word in South Africa. That's always been wrong. You know, that's been wrong for 1 years of democracy. You know, there are just certain things. If I go through your profile and then we find a swastika, hi, no ways, you know. And I guess this kind of brings us into the conversation of cancel culture, right? Where do we go? How far do we take it? I'll give you two opinions on it. I 100% believe in cancel culture, but I also at the same time don't. Because I do believe that as a society, we have a philosophy that people must repent. And I'll use Kanye West as an example. After Kanye said that whole thing about slavery was a choice, I was like, nah, chief. I was like, I'm done with Kanye. Enough is enough, right? And then he had like a little bit of a rebrand. And then it was just like, oh, he's repented. And I was just like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I'll listen to Donda. Because I didn't listen to anything. Life of Pablo, I attended the show in New York, Madison Square Garden. And then I stopped after that. And then the first album I got back into was Donda, right? And then Mr. West it makes it very hard for you to defend him. And then there's times where where I think cancel culture is not normal or fine, but there's times where people are just apologizing for the sake of apologizing. You can see in the ways that they're moving that there hasn't really been any, change in the way. And for me, it always comes down to racial issues a lot. For me, it's racial issues and same-sex issues, right? There was a time the F word in, describing gay people was like normalized. I grew up on Eminem. He said it every fourth or fifth lyric. But at the same time, it's so weird because Eminem was a very big gay rights activist. Elton John brought him out. And there's the one song where he says, you guys are concerned, something about, you guys are concerned about this and that, but you won't let another man and a man elope in one of the songs. I want to imagine. I can't remember. But he says essentially, you guys are always so worried about all this other stuff, but in reality, you won't even let another man and another man get married. So every time I listen to him, I'm like, you are so confusing because I don't know what to listen to. So the cancel culture thing for me is 100% dependent on the situation. I think just to put it there, it cannot be a one size fits all. Some people say things that are extremely offline, outside. You're offline, outside, offside. Offside. And then there are times where people have just, honestly, they were young and they said the wrong thing and they weren't really educated. So it's almost like what do we do with it? Like, one of my biggest fears is trending on Twitter. I won't lie to you. Like, someone finds an old tweet where I was maybe, and I need you guys to understand, I was on Twitter in 2009. I was in grade 10, right? You find a tweet of mine from and that's why my Twitter's locked. You find a tweet of mine from 2009, crazy person, did not know anything about anything. But and I guess this is a question, is everything that I've done now negated based off of one tweet? That's why I think it's very situational for me. Like, what are we talking about here? You know, Kanye West making a song about being a Nazi. I mean, that's clear as day. First you said slavery was a choice, then you now made a song about Nazi. That's clear as day. But some things are a little bit gray. You know what I mean? I hope this doesn't get me cancelled. Please, guys. My heart is good. I've been to therapy. Anything else? Yeah, that 30-minute episode went into a 40 now.
Questions?
No, I don't have questions.
No more questions.
Thank
We'd
you.
love to see it. Guys, I promise you, it's not goodbye time to... Can I find a sad song? Say... No, that's a cricket. I really need to get better at this. Do you see? I really want to work on my craft. Those are not the right charms. Oh, man.
But yeah, guys, this is not goodbye. It's see you later. And always remember, every jolt is a goat in the making. Lacquer.